Every day, countless people surrender their peace without even noticing it. A single comment, a careless opinion, an unfair judgment, or a moment of disrespect is enough to pull them into an emotional storm. They react instantly, believing that defending themselves at every opportunity is a sign of strength. But if you observe those who possess true inner power, you will discover something entirely different. They are not the loudest voices in the room. They are not desperate to win every argument. They are not driven by the need to prove their worth. Their greatest weapon is the ability to remain still when everyone else expects an explosion. A truly strong woman understands a truth that many spend a lifetime chasing. Every reaction comes with a cost. Every unnecessary argument steals a piece of your peace. Every emotional outburst gives someone else control over your state of mind. The moment another person can decide how you feel, they begin to influence the direction of your life. Strength is not found in raising your voice. It is found in keeping your center when the world attempts to shake it. There is a quiet confidence that cannot be imitated. It does not demand attention, and it never announces itself. It is revealed in the moments when criticism is met with calm, when insults are answered with dignity, and when chaos is met with unwavering composure. This kind of strength is often misunderstood because society has trained many people to believe that immediate reactions prove courage. Yet the strongest individuals understand that patience is far more difficult than anger, and restraint requires far more discipline than revenge. Think about how much energy is wasted trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand you. How many sleepless nights are created by conversations that changed nothing? How many relationships have been damaged because emotion spoke before wisdom had the chance? Every unnecessary reaction leaves behind regret, while every moment of self-control builds a stronger character. The woman who masters herself no longer needs to control others. She becomes impossible to manipulate because her peace no longer depends on the behavior of those around her. This does not mean becoming silent out of fear. It does not mean accepting disrespect or pretending that pain does not exist. It means choosing your responses with intention instead of allowing emotions to choose for you. There is an enormous difference between remaining quiet because you feel powerless and remaining quiet because you recognize that your energy is too valuable to waste. One comes from weakness. The other comes from wisdom. Life will continue to test your patience. People will misunderstand your intentions. Some will question your decisions, criticize your growth, or become uncomfortable with your confidence. You cannot prevent these moments from arriving, but you can decide whether they become your prison or your teacher. Every challenge offers two paths, the path of reaction or the path of mastery. One drains your spirit, the other strengthens it. Today we explore why the strongest women rarely react immediately, why silence often speaks louder than words, and how mastering your emotions becomes the foundation of lasting confidence, unshakable peace, and true personal power. Most people believe strength is demonstrated by how quickly they respond. They think a fast reply, a sharp argument, or an emotional reaction proves confidence. In reality, these responses often reveal something entirely different. They reveal that the mind has been disturbed. The stronger the emotion, the easier it becomes for another person to control your behavior. A truly strong woman understands this simple truth. She knows that silence is not emptiness, it is control. It is the space between emotion and action, where wisdom has the opportunity to lead. While others rush to defend themselves, she remains composed because she understands that every unnecessary reaction is an investment of energy that may never return. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness because it does not satisfy the expectations of those seeking conflict. Many people become uncomfortable when they fail to provoke a response. They expect anger to meet anger and criticism to be answered with criticism. When that reaction never comes, they lose their influence. The person who refuses to react has quietly reclaimed control of the situation. This is why silence can be far more powerful than the loudest voice. It removes the fuel that conflict depends upon. Without fuel, even the fiercest fire eventually dies. A woman who has developed inner strength no longer measures herself by the opinions of strangers or even those close to her. She understands that not every accusation deserves an explanation, not every insult deserves a defense, and not every misunderstanding needs to become a battle. Her value is not determined by someone else's inability to recognize it. Because she knows who she is, she does not feel compelled to convince everyone else. Confidence that depends on approval is fragile. Confidence that grows from self-awareness remains steady, even when surrounded by doubt. There is a remarkable difference between remaining silent because you have nothing to say and remaining silent because you have mastered yourself. The first may come from fear, uncertainty, or confusion. The second comes from discipline. It is the deliberate decision to choose peace over pride. It is recognizing that protecting your emotional balance is often more valuable than proving a point. Every unnecessary argument consumes time, attention, and peace of mind. Once those moments are gone, they cannot be recovered. Strong women understand that their energy is one of their greatest resources, and they refuse to spend it carelessly. Imagine a mountain standing beneath a storm. The wind howls, the rain falls, and thunder shakes the sky. Yet the mountain does not chase the storm. It does not fight the wind. It simply remains where it is. Eventually, the clouds move on, but the mountain remains unchanged. Inner strength works in the same way. The world will continue to bring criticism, disappointment, rejection, and misunderstanding. Those experiences are unavoidable. The question is whether you allow them to reshape your peace or whether you remain rooted in your values despite them. Silence allows you to become like that mountain, steady, grounded, and unmoved by temporary turbulence. Many conflicts continue only because both people refuse to stop reacting. One harsh word invites another. One emotional response creates the next. Soon, neither person remembers the original issue because the conversation has become a contest of pride. The strongest woman recognizes this pattern before it begins. She understands that winning an argument is meaningless if it costs her dignity. She would rather protect her character than satisfy her ego. This is not avoidance. It is maturity. It is the ability to distinguish between what deserves attention and what deserves distance. Silence also creates clarity. When emotions are loud, judgment becomes clouded. Decisions made in anger often become regrets carried for years. Words spoken in frustration cannot be taken back, even if forgiveness is later offered. By choosing silence first, a strong woman gives herself the opportunity to observe instead of assuming, to understand instead of reacting, and to decide instead of exploding. In that quiet space, emotions lose their urgency, wisdom becomes clearer, and the right response begins to reveal itself. That is why silence is not simply the absence of words. It is the presence of self-mastery, patience, and unwavering inner power that no outside force can easily disturb. The greatest battles in life are rarely fought with other people. They are fought within the mind. Every day, emotions rise and fall like waves. Anger appears when expectations are broken. Fear emerges when the future feels uncertain. Disappointment follows when reality refuses to match our desires. These emotions are natural, but they become dangerous when they are allowed to make decisions on our behalf. A truly strong woman understands that emotions are valuable messengers, but they should never become the leader of her life. She listens to them without surrendering to them. This is emotional mastery, the ability to experience every feeling without becoming a prisoner of it. Many people confuse emotional intensity with authenticity. They believe that expressing every feeling the moment it appears is a sign of honesty. Yet, immediate expression often reflects impulse rather than wisdom. A harsh response given in anger may feel satisfying for a few seconds, but its consequences can last for years. Relationships are damaged, opportunities disappear, and trust is broken because a single emotional moment was allowed to outweigh years of patience and understanding. A strong woman recognizes that every emotion deserves awareness, but not every emotion deserves action. Imagine holding a glass of muddy water. If you continue to shake it, the water remains cloudy. You cannot see through it because the movement keeps disturbing everything inside. But if you place the glass on a table and leave it untouched, the dirt slowly settles and the water becomes clear again. The mind works in exactly the same way. Constant emotional reactions keep thoughts clouded. Silence, patience, and stillness allow clarity to return. The strongest decisions are rarely made in moments of emotional turbulence. They are made after the storm has settled. Emotional mastery begins with recognizing that feelings are temporary. No emotion, regardless of its intensity, lasts forever. Anger fades, fear weakens, excitement settles. Sadness eventually changes its shape. The problem is that many people act as though their present emotion is permanent. They make lifelong decisions based on temporary feelings. They end friendships in moments of frustration, abandon dreams after brief disappointments, and speak words they spend years wishing they could take back. A strong woman develops the patience to wait until emotions have passed before deciding what deserves her attention. This discipline requires tremendous self-awareness. It means noticing the first signs of frustration before they grow into rage. It means recognizing when pride is speaking louder than truth. It means asking yourself whether your response is driven by wisdom or by wounded ego. These questions create a small space between emotion and action. Within that space lies freedom. The person who controls that space controls the direction of their life. The person who ignores it becomes controlled by circumstances. People often attempt to provoke emotional reactions because reactions give them influence. They know that if they can make you angry, they can distract you. If they can make you insecure, they can weaken your confidence. If they can make you doubt yourself, they begin shaping your behavior. A woman who has mastered her emotions becomes extremely difficult to manipulate. She does not allow another person's words to determine her peace. She understands that someone else's behavior reflects their character, not hers. Instead of absorbing every negative comment, she allows it to pass without allowing it to define her identity. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. Emotional mastery is not emotional numbness. Strong women still feel disappointment, heartbreak, frustration, and pain. They still experience moments of uncertainty and sadness. The difference is that they process these emotions instead of projecting them onto everyone around them. They acknowledge their feelings with honesty, but they refuse to let those feelings dictate their actions. They understand that strength is not found in denying emotion, but in directing it wisely. There is also immense power in choosing a delayed response. When someone insults you, silence gives you time to understand their intention. When criticism arrives, patience allows you to separate useful advice from meaningless judgment. When conflict appears, composure prevents small disagreements from becoming lasting divisions. This pause is not hesitation born from weakness, it is discipline born from confidence. The woman who can pause before reacting has already gained an advantage over the person who is ruled by impulse. As emotional mastery deepens, life begins to change in subtle yet profound ways. Decisions become clearer because they are no longer clouded by temporary feelings. Relationships become healthier because communication is guided by respect instead of impulse. Challenges become opportunities for growth rather than reasons for despair. Confidence becomes quieter because it no longer depends on external approval. Most importantly, peace becomes an inner condition instead of something that depends on perfect circumstances. The strongest woman is not the one who never feels emotion. She is the one who feels deeply, thinks clearly, and chooses her response with unwavering discipline, allowing wisdom to remain stronger than impulse and purpose, to remain greater than every passing emotion. One of the greatest signs of inner strength is the ability to choose peace instead of constantly trying to prove a point. Many people spend their lives believing that every disagreement must be settled, every criticism must be answered, and every misunderstanding must be corrected. They feel compelled to defend themselves at every opportunity because they fear that silence will be mistaken for weakness. Yet the strongest women understand a deeper truth. Not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every conflict deserves your participation. Sometimes the greatest victory is walking away with your peace still intact. There is a hidden cost to every argument. It is not measured by who wins or loses, but by how much energy is consumed. Every heated conversation demands your focus, your emotions, and your time. Hours can be spent replaying words in your mind, imagining better responses, or wondering how someone could misunderstand you so completely. This mental burden quietly steals your ability to enjoy the present. A strong woman recognizes that her peace is far too valuable to exchange for the temporary satisfaction of being right. Many arguments continue, not because they are important, but because pride refuses to let them end. Two people become trapped in a cycle where each sentence is designed to defeat the other, rather than understand the other. Listening disappears, and only the desire to win remains. In such moments, truth becomes less important than ego. A wise woman notices this shift. She understands that when a conversation is no longer seeking understanding, continuing it serves no purpose. She chooses to step away, not because she lacks an answer, but because she values harmony more than victory. Imagine carrying a heavy stone everywhere you go. At first, you may barely notice its weight, but as the hours pass, your shoulders become tired, your steps become slower, and every movement requires more effort. Unnecessary conflicts are much like that stone. Each unresolved argument, every resentment, and every attempt to prove yourself adds another burden to your heart. Eventually, you begin living under the weight of emotions that were never meant to be carried for so long. The strongest women learn to put the stone down. They refuse to carry battles that no longer serve their growth. Choosing peace does not mean abandoning your principles or accepting disrespect. There are moments in life when speaking up is necessary, when boundaries must be established, and when silence would allow injustice to continue. True wisdom lies in recognizing the difference between meaningful confrontation and pointless conflict. A strong woman asks herself whether her response will improve the situation or simply satisfy her emotions. If her words have the potential to create clarity, healing, or protection, she speaks with confidence. If they only promise more chaos, she allows silence to speak instead. One of the reasons people feel an overwhelming need to prove themselves is insecurity. When confidence depends on the approval of others, disagreement feels like rejection. Criticism feels like an attack on identity rather than an opinion. But a woman who has developed genuine self-respect no longer depends on constant validation. She understands that another person's misunderstanding cannot diminish her worth. She does not waste precious energy convincing people who have already decided not to listen. Instead, she allows her actions to reveal her character over time. Nature offers a beautiful lesson in this principle. A river does not stop flowing because someone throws a stone into it. The water simply moves around the obstacle and continues its journey toward the ocean. It does not argue with the stone or attempt to remove it. It understands its purpose and remains committed to it. Life presents similar obstacles in the form of criticism, negativity, jealousy, and misunderstanding. The strongest women continue moving forward without allowing every obstacle to determine the direction of their lives. There is also remarkable freedom in accepting that you cannot control how others think. No amount of explanation can force understanding upon someone who refuses to see. Some people are committed to misunderstanding because it protects their own beliefs or insecurities. Trying endlessly to change their minds often leads only to exhaustion. A wise woman understands that her responsibility is to live with integrity, not to manage every opinion formed about her. She releases the impossible task of controlling perceptions and focuses instead on controlling her own conduct. As this mindset becomes a habit, relationships become healthier and decisions become calmer. Conversations are no longer driven by the desperate need to win, but by the sincere desire to understand. Energy once wasted on unnecessary disputes is redirected toward personal growth, meaningful goals, and genuine connections. Peace becomes a daily practice rather than a distant hope. The strongest woman discovers that her greatest strength is not the ability to defeat every opponent, but the wisdom to recognize which battles are worthy of her time, which words deserve her voice, and which moments are best answered with quiet confidence and unwavering inner calm. One of the quietest yet most powerful transformations a woman can experience is the moment she no longer depends on the approval of others to feel valuable. Before this transformation, life often becomes a constant search for acceptance. Every compliment feels necessary, every criticism feels painful, and every rejection feels personal. Decisions are influenced by the fear of disappointing others rather than the desire to remain true to oneself. But a truly strong woman reaches a point where her self-worth is no longer built on opinions that change with every circumstance. She understands that real confidence is an inner foundation, not an external reward. Many people unknowingly place their happiness into the hands of others. They wait for recognition before believing they have done enough. They seek validation before trusting their own instincts. They measure their success by applause instead of personal growth. This creates a fragile life because the opinions of people are unpredictable. Today someone may admire you, and tomorrow the same person may criticize you. If your sense of worth rises and falls with their approval, you will spend your entire life on an emotional roller coaster, controlled by circumstances beyond your control. A strong woman refuses to live this way. She understands that people see the world through the lens of their own experiences, expectations, and insecurities. One person may admire her confidence, while another mistakes it for arrogance. One may appreciate her silence, while another assumes she has nothing to say. One may celebrate her independence, while another feels threatened by it. If she attempted to satisfy every opinion, she would eventually lose herself. Instead, she chooses to remain authentic, knowing that consistency of character is more valuable than universal acceptance. Think of a tree growing in a forest. It does not stop reaching toward the sky because someone dislikes its shape. It does not compare its height with every tree around it. It continues growing according to its own nature, drawing strength from its roots rather than seeking permission from the forest. Human beings often forget this lesson. We compare our journeys, question our value, and seek reassurance from people who may not even understand our purpose. A woman who knows her worth grows like that tree. Her strength comes from deep roots built through discipline, integrity, resilience, and self-respect. This kind of confidence is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. In fact, genuine self-worth often appears as quiet humility. A woman who truly values herself does not feel compelled to prove she is intelligent, attractive, successful, or capable. She allows her actions to speak where words are unnecessary. She understands that those who constantly seek attention are often searching for something they have not yet found within themselves. Real confidence does not compete. It simply exists. One of the greatest dangers of seeking validation is that it can slowly shape your identity. You begin saying what people want to hear instead of what you genuinely believe. You avoid taking necessary risks because you fear criticism. You remain in unhealthy relationships because you are afraid of being alone. You sacrifice your peace in exchange for acceptance. At first, these compromises seem small, but over time they become habits that distance you from your true self. A strong woman recognizes this pattern and chooses authenticity over approval, even when that choice is uncomfortable. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions. Some will judge you without knowing your story. Others may project their own fears onto your decisions. You cannot prevent these things from happening, but you can decide whether they define your confidence. The strongest women understand that another person's inability to recognize their value does not reduce that value. A diamond remains precious whether it is admired or ignored. Its worth is not determined by the opinions of those who pass by. In the same way, your character, integrity, and purpose remain valuable regardless of who chooses to acknowledge them. Developing self-worth also changes the way you handle relationships. Instead of chasing people who repeatedly ignore your value, you begin investing your energy in those who appreciate your presence. Instead of begging for respect, you establish healthy boundaries. Instead of fearing solitude, you learn to enjoy your own company because you no longer confuse being alone with being incomplete. This freedom creates healthier connections because they are based on mutual respect rather than emotional dependence. As self-worth becomes stronger, reactions become fewer. Insults lose their power because they no longer define your identity. Criticism becomes easier to evaluate because you can separate helpful advice from empty judgment. Rejection becomes a lesson instead of a life sentence. Every experience, whether pleasant or painful, becomes an opportunity to deepen your understanding of yourself rather than a reason to question your value. The strongest woman walks through life with quiet certainty, knowing that her worth was never something to be earned through applause, arguments, or approval, but something cultivated through character, protected by self-respect, and strengthened each day by remaining faithful to the person she chooses to become. Patience is often mistaken for passivity, but they are not the same. Passivity comes from fear, hesitation, or uncertainty. Patience comes from confidence. A truly strong woman does not rush, because she understands that time has a way of revealing what emotions often hide. She knows that every challenge does not require an immediate response. Every opportunity does not demand instant action, and every conflict does not need to be resolved in a single moment. Instead of allowing urgency to control her decisions, she allows wisdom to determine her direction. This quiet patience becomes one of the greatest sources of her confidence, because she trusts herself enough to wait for clarity before taking action. In today's world, speed is often celebrated. People expect immediate replies, instant success, quick results, and constant progress. This environment creates pressure to act before thinking and speak before understanding. Yet many of life's greatest mistakes are not caused by a lack of intelligence, but by a lack of patience. Words spoken in frustration cannot be taken back. Decisions made in anger often create consequences that last far longer than the emotion that inspired them. A strong woman recognizes this danger. She understands that waiting is not wasting time when it protects her peace and improves her judgment. Imagine an experienced gardener planting a seed. They do not dig it up every day to check whether it has started growing. They water it, protect it, and trust the process. They understand that growth happens beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. Human development follows the same principle. Confidence, resilience, wisdom, and emotional strength are not built overnight. They grow quietly through consistent effort, difficult experiences, and patient perseverance. A woman who understands this does not become discouraged by slow progress. She knows that lasting transformation cannot be rushed. Patience also changes the way a woman views difficult people. Instead of reacting to every careless word or disrespectful action, she observes. She allows time to reveal patterns. She understands that one mistake does not always define a person's character, but repeated behavior often tells the truth. This patient observation helps her make wiser decisions about whom to trust, whom to forgive, and whom to keep at a distance. Rather than making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, she allows consistency to reveal reality. There is tremendous confidence in knowing that you do not have to force outcomes. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control every situation. They chase approval, demand immediate answers, or become anxious when life unfolds differently than expected. A strong woman learns that some things cannot be hurried. Relationships require time to develop trust. Skills require time to master. Healing requires time to restore the heart. Even success often arrives only after countless unseen efforts. By accepting this truth, she frees herself from unnecessary frustration and learns to work steadily without becoming impatient. Patience is closely connected to emotional resilience. When setbacks appear, an impatient mind immediately assumes failure. It believes every obstacle is the end of the journey. A patient mind sees the same obstacle as part of the process. It asks, what can this experience teach me? Rather than, why is this happening to me? This simple shift in perspective transforms challenges into opportunities for growth. Every disappointment becomes a lesson, every delay becomes preparation, and every difficulty becomes another opportunity to strengthen character. One of the greatest advantages of patience is that it protects against manipulation. People who seek to control others often rely on emotional urgency. They pressure you to decide before you have thought clearly. They provoke reactions before you have understood the situation. They create confusion because confused people are easier to influence. A patient woman refuses to be rushed. She listens carefully, reflects deeply, and responds only when she has gained enough understanding. This calm approach makes her difficult to deceive because she values clarity more than speed. Nature demonstrates this lesson beautifully. Rivers carve through solid rock not because of sudden force, but because of continuous patient movement. Mountains are shaped over centuries, not in moments. The strongest trees survive fierce storms because their roots have been strengthened slowly over many seasons. Lasting strength is never the result of haste. It is always the product of consistent endurance. In the same way, the strongest women are not formed by avoiding hardship, but by remaining steady through it. Their confidence comes from knowing they have endured difficult seasons before and have emerged wiser each time. As patience becomes a daily practice, confidence naturally deepens. There is no desperate need to prove anything, because true growth is already taking place within. Decisions become calmer because they are guided by understanding rather than pressure. Relationships become healthier because they are built on trust instead of impulse. Goals become more achievable because persistence replaces frustration. Most importantly, inner peace becomes less dependent on immediate results and more rooted in the quiet certainty that every meaningful achievement requires time. The strongest woman walks forward without rushing the journey, trusting that wisdom matures through experience, character is refined through perseverance, and lasting confidence is built one patient decision after another, allowing time itself to become an ally in shaping a life of purpose, resilience, and unwavering inner strength.